Welcome to our review of the Mercedes E200, the brand new, all new 2017 model. Now, this is the car that your uncle desires the most. Let us be honest now. This is the all new Mercedes E-Class, and this is the one that he wants. This is the staple of the Merc range, you see, because this is the middle car that leaves the C for the young upwardly mobile, and it leaves the S for industry tycoons. This is the bread and butter saloon from the three-pointed star. Okay, enough with the silly accent. It looks like a Mercedes that's no longer a teenager, which is the C-Class, but not yet a man, which of course is the S-Class. I have to admit though that it does look a lot like the C-Class. It's quite hard to tell them apart. But is it any good though? Well, I reckon your uncle would actually love this car. That's if you could figure it out. But I'll get to that in a minute. First, the practicalities. Because of course, the Mercedes E-Class has always been eminently usable, rugged and dependable, whether you find it on a German Autobahn or in a sub-Saharan dirt track. So let's look at the boot of the new E200. Nice new key from Mercedes. Very nicely designed. I do like that. So press and hold the boot release and the boot opens. Voila! And you can see that it's actually a very, very deep and very wide compartment. Very, very handy. Pocket on this side, and over here we've got these release handles for the rear seat backs. Pull that and you get the two little hooks to hang your shopping bags on. There's a hook down there, and underneath this floor there is yet another massive compartment, very, very deep, with a very well laid out toolkit, including a little rag there. Very, very helpful. So great stuff, Mercedes. So here we are in the back of the new Mercedes E200. Very, very spacious indeed. I'm 6'2". I have no issues whatsoever. They have scoops here for knees, but I don't need them. I've got plenty of room. Good room for my feet as well. Quite an airy and spacious cabin, helped by two sun roofs here. These shades open up to let more light into the cabin. You also have shades over here as well. There's a little hook here to hang your jacket for when you're going into a meeting, a little reading light, wooden trim, leather trim, all very, very nice. In the middle here, you have an armrest that flips out with a little compartment in the middle, and you have two cup holders of course as well. You also got plenty of cooling. You've got two vents down here and vents here on each of the B pillars. Also down here you have cooling control, so you have temperature and fan speed. Underneath that you have a little compartment with an ashtray. Who uses ashtrays anymore? And a power supply. No USBs here, but there are two USBs in the center console in the cubby box, and that opens in such a way that you could run a cable out to the back if you needed to. So all in all, a very nice place to be. Now, of course, the big thing that you will have noticed about this car is, of course, this massive screen that pretty much covers 2/3 of the front dashboard here, as you can make out. And it is quite a magnificent thing to look at. Now, point to note that in the base model cars, you still get the more traditional and conservative dials, but in the better spec cars like this one, you get this full screen, a full digital screen. Now the digital screen, as you can see, is actually split into two parts. So you've got your instrument panel section here, which is sort of quite conventional, which is fully digital again and quite configurable as well. Whereas you've got your main screen here, your infotainment screen, which gives you all of the navigation. And in fact, if I hit the menu button here, you'll see all the features that it will run through, if you can make those out. So it's got one of the biggest navigation screens that I have ever encountered. I mean that is just phenomenal. You can just see about everything through that. That's absolutely incredible. Go back to the home screen, radio, media, telephone, Mercedes Connect vehicle. Lots of settings in here as well. If I go into there, climate control, dynamic select, that's where you can select the performance, or individually configured as well. What do I mean by that? You got steering, you got all of these things, Sport Plus and all the rest of it. Let's go back again. This screen, by the way, is not a touch screen, and everything is controllable, and there's a system, and in the system you have things like command touch and all this sort of stuff. Displays and all that. It does have heads-up display as well. It's actually controlled, the screen is not a touch screen, it's actually controlled either by this touchpad here, or the roller button here, or the buttons over here, or the shortcut buttons over here next to the wonderful clock, or which you get a reproduction of in the screen for some reason. These nice metal alloy type touch screens, touch buttons, or toggle buttons rather, with the knurled top here. They're just for the climate control. As you can see, massive bank of vents all the way along, and some nice ones at the end there. Very nice spherical jobs there, nice to touch at. Yet more ways to control the screen though are here, and this is as you can see, it's very touch sensitive. And you got consumption, of course, it gives you all of that stuff, and it's on both sides. So this one controls your screen here in the middle, as you can see, and it goes through your trip meter and stuff like that. You've got your volume control and home buttons, and you've got your speech, voice control and all that. It's got a stalk for the transmission and paddles, which I don't know why they've bothered with. Light controls are down there. There's your heads-up display controls. This is interesting. Of course, it's got the seat controls on the door here, but if I press this button here, you can see that I will actually be able to adjust the passenger seat, which actually, if you think about it, it's quite handy, because sometimes you do need to adjust that seat. In here you've got a big, quite deep cubby box with, if you can make out, 2 USBs and an SD card slot. So that's quite helpful as well. And here, of course, there's a compartment with cup holders and, of course, an ashtray. Little compartment in there as well. So just an extra little compartment. That's quite handy. So that's pretty much the interior. But the thing to say, really, the thing to mention is that, and also you can configure, there's a lighting bar that goes all the way underneath here and along the doors. Looks really nice. In fact, covers the entire cabin, and you can change the color. You can have literally any color you like. There's a whole spectrum of colors, and you can just select whatever color you like. In fact, you can see some of the color bars right here on the dashboard. So a lot in this car, a lot of technical stuff, and that's before I've even gotten into the driver's aids and all of those systems. But quite a lot of complexity here, quite a lot of complexity. In fact, I would say for a lot of people it could probably be a little bit daunting, a little bit confusing, let's be honest. Right, enough of the gadgetry. Let's take it for a little bit of a drive. Not too much of a drive, because really, as you'll see, it doesn't really need it. So put it into drive and off we go. So we only get the E200 in our market at the moment, which is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo from the previous generation. Actually, we've seen it in that. Puts out 184 brake horsepower and 221 pounds-foot of torque. It'll labor away from 0, reaching 100 kilometers per hour in a suitable 7.7 seconds, and onto a top speed of 240 kilometers per hour. Drives the rear wheels through admittedly a new and rather sophisticated and sublime 9-speed automatic, but with these rather, like I said, pointless paddle shifts on this model, because really performance is not a feature of this car, and sportiness is, let's be honest, a distant concept. If I was to be blunt, really. It's simply not what this car is about. The whole car is geared for comfort and ease of driving, with feelless and slightly slow steering that really doesn't encourage you to throw it around. It's got a bit of a lolloping gait about it, and it actually does that old E-Class thing of, sort of heaving itself into a corner and then eventually settling down as you barrel your way out of it. Sure, the grip is there and it's faithful for sure, but this is not a car that wants to play. In fact, it'll be very interesting to see how they set up the 400 horsepower V6 AMG E43 model and the 4-liter V8 600 horsepower E63 when those inevitably and eventually get to our market. For now, all you get in our market is this E200. That's the only model you can get, and the price of that starts from 193,000 dirhams, which is about $52,000, $52,700 actually. Which, you might think, well, that's not bad, is it, really, for a Mercedes E-Class? However, that's about the same money that in the States will buy you an E300, which still only has a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, but that one is a bit more generous with 241 brake horsepower. Now, it's a bit odd because from what I can see, That's the base entry model in America. They don't get the E200, and in fact, I don't find this car in the European market because they get more interesting hybrids and diesels. So what's the deal with that, Mercedes? Why don't we get the better engines? I mean, this really is, you know, you kick down and it searches through its 9 gears, and it does go eventually, but there really isn't any kind of grunt here. And, you know, I mean, 7.7 seconds is respectable in the old days, but this car, there doesn't feel like there's any kind of urgency or desire to get it on. It really just wants to cruise. So verdict then. Well, Mercedes has to get every E-Class right, because it kind of defines them, perhaps even more so than the S-Class. And it would be churlish to say that they haven't got it right. Yes, they have got it right. Of course they have. And okay, we're a bit shortchanged in our market with this motor, but the refinement, the comfort, the kit, the quality, and the overall feel good is all still there. And if you're after one of the most prestigious badges in the business, and you've done well for yourself this year, and you've always wanted a Mercedes, then quite frankly, you should just go for this. Because if you just want to cruise in comfort, that's your priority, you couldn't ask for more really. However, for uncles out there, it's all a little bit too gadgety and too techy. It's very, very confusing. You don't want a car that you have to rush to the owner's manual to figure out. In fact, the owner's manual is in the system, which you have to go to the owner's manual to figure out how to get to it. It's very, very confusing. Really, you want to get into a car that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with, that's really tells you exactly what you need to do. You don't need to think about it and just drive off. So that's where it kind of falls down, I think, for what I perceive to be its target market. Not young smartphone specialists, but actually people that are slightly older and just want something that is straightforward. So for them, I think it's all going to be a little bit daunting, a little bit intimidating, I'm afraid. You know, there are better, cleaner, simpler ways of delivering all of this technology, pretty much the safety levels for sure, the comfort, the refinement, the durability, and to some extent even the nameplate and the prestige and the solid brand that goes with it. Plus, more power and overall, actually, I would say better value. And that, my friends, is the Volvo S90. And me, I would go for that one. There you go. That's our verdict on the Mercedes E200, the 2017 model. Please do find the full review on motoringme.com, and do please follow us on all the social media. We do a lot of stuff on Facebook, but you can also find us on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for Motoring Middle East. It's very easy, and you'll also find us the same way on YouTube. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then please do like, share, and subscribe. That would be much appreciated. You can also follow me, Shahzad Sheikh, on Instagram. Just search for @Shahzad Sheikh, and on Snapchat you can find me as Shahzad_Sheikh. That would be appreciated. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching, and until the next one.